What's up, everybody? This is Chris Nichols, and you're listening to an episode of the Nichols and Dimes Show featuring Chris Sortino. Enjoy.
You don't know what I'm about to do. Big explosion, get away right now. She's heating up, you're still acting full. Slow down, man, I just don't know how. You don't know what I'm about to do.
Chris, brother, how you doing, man?
What's up, my guy? Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, bro, thanks for getting on this with me, man. It's been so cool to watch what you've been working on, and I'm stoked to have you on the podcast.
You know, I don't think people know that you really get to witness it firsthand. As somebody who lives two doors down from me, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean?
Not to reveal too much about where we live, but yes, we met each other due to being neighbors. So I do get to see what you're up to, and we're gonna talk about that. I'm definitely interested in your routine because you do have some really cool, healthy habits and stuff, and just the lifestyle that you live overall, right?
Absolutely.
So we'll talk about that, but let me give a quick intro for you. So guys, I'm here today with Chris Sortino, who is from Long Island, New York. You guys probably won't be able to tell from his accent and the volume in which he talks, right?
I'm going to go get myself a coffee.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he currently lives in San Diego, but he spent most of his career working in sales, which includes his resume includes the New York Mets and a pharmaceutical data company. He has an awesome story of how he transitioned to become an entrepreneur in 2022 when he launched his discipline and mindset coaching business. His intention is to help others become the best versions of themselves by building better habits and breaking bad ones. He also is heavily involved in golf and currently runs a golf academy for juniors and adults. Dude, wow. It's so cool what you've built, because I just met you not too long ago in the whole scheme of things, and you were working the corporate 9 to 5, right? Yeah. And then, look at you today. You're making it on your own with your own business, and you're helping people in incredible ways. So I love to see it, man, and I can't wait to learn more about what's going on.
Absolutely, Chris. Thank you so much for saying that, man. I really do appreciate it, and having somebody like yourself and quite a few other folks here in San Diego who have bared witness quite literally to the transition that I've been able to make firsthand just means a ton to me, man. Thank you so much for being so aware and really recognizing that. It means the world to me.
Oh, absolutely, man. And it's been a blessing to get to know you better, and I'm excited to continue to do so. So, man, dude, why don't we start from the beginning? I want to learn about your life growing up in New York City. Very, very different from where we live here in San Diego, right?
Absolutely.
A bit of a culture shock. So when did you move here again?
So I came out here to San Diego in April of 2022. Before that, I had spent roughly 15 months living back home with my folks, saving some money, traveling the world. I was able to go on a couple of golf trips that, I was so fortunate to have that time, right? I was working from home, doing the whole nomadic work lifestyle, right? Being able to work from my laptop wherever I wanted to go, which was super cool. I hit some really great places, including, Torrey Pines, Pebble Beach. Went down to Stream Song in Florida, played all the Trump courses down in Doral, went over to Pinehurst down in North Carolina. I go to Kiowa Island every year for my birthday. So
where's that?
It's down in South Carolina.
Okay.
It's like 45 minutes south of Charleston.
Nice.
Yeah, it's an awesome place. And, one of my fraternity alumni brothers actually is like 2 places removed from being caddy master at the ocean course. So we have an incredible experience every time that we go down there.
That's cool.
We get the exceptional white glove service that Kyle provides us. For example, like our first year there, we were taken up into the Ryder Cup locker room where in 1991, the United States defeated Europe. It was known as the War at the Shore back in 1991, that Ryder Cup. And that was why they built the ocean course at Kiowa Island. Pete and Alice Dye, for those who don't know, I'm not just a golf nerd. There's going to be plenty of other things that we'll talk about here today, but I do love golf course architecture and the rich history that it provides. You can only get to so many different swing techniques and things that you actually do on the course. There's got to be some other things that keep you engaged and keep you intrigued with the game itself and why you're doing it, right? Yeah. So they actually built that in the late 80s, heading into the 90s. And I was so blessed and grateful to have my boy move from, he was actually an assistant pro in Pinehurst at I believe the number 8 or number 9 course before he moved over to Kiowa. And I let him know, like, hey, I really want to go on these crazy golf trips that I see people going. Like, where do you recommend that I go? And I was like, dude, come to Kiowa. Like, you can go to Pinehurst, you can spend all the money in the world, but if you come here, like, I'll be able to take care of you. So that's a once yearly thing that we do there as well.
Nice.
Which is incredible. So, before that, I was living in New York City. I spent like a grand total of 4 years in Queens. I split my time between Long Island City and Astoria. They're super close to the city, 2 or 3 subway stops away, depending on where you go. And I also spent 6 months in Midtown as well.
Love it.
So actually in Manhattan.
Yeah, man. I mean, honestly, New York City growing up was my favorite city in the world. And I grew up in Hawaii, which is wildly different. But I just was always so attracted to the energy out there, the speed, the way people interact. And it gave me a lot of confidence and good energy, I felt. So I want to talk about what gave you the idea or made you want to make the move from there to here in San Diego. It's very different. I mean, I'm in love with San Diego. It's a beautiful place in different ways, but why did you make this transition?
It's a great question, Chris. So for those that don't know, I was born and raised in East Islip, New York. It's a small town on Long Island. It's very well known for its pizza and Boomer Esiason. That's where Boomer Esiason actually graduated from high school, went on to eventually become a Cincinnati Bengal. But if he would donate to the wrestling team a little bit more, it'd be greatly appreciated. Back when I was there, I wrestled in the same singlet for 6 years. So, it was tough kind of watching the football and the baseball kids get brand new warm-ups, brand new jerseys every single year when we didn't get much. But that was all I knew, right? Like, all I knew was Long Island. And I thought for a very long time, this is where I'm going to make a life for myself. This is where I'm going to build a family. I'm going to have some kids. I'm going to put my roots down. Like, I love Long Island. I'm a New Yorker, through and through. And then COVID happened, man, and...
You mind if I pause you right there?
Oh, please.
I want to ask about, so I just want a better picture of what was your life like growing up in Long Island, because you do come off as like a true New Yorker, right? Like that's
Appreciate
where you're,
that.
yeah, of course. you have roots there, obviously.
Yeah.
Your family, how many, does your family go back generations there? Like what did your parents do? What was your history in New York?
Great question. So 3 generations ago, my great-great-grandparents, so that would be 4 generations ago, actually immigrated here from various parts of Europe. And my dad's family, both his mother and father and his grandparents, were settled in Brooklyn.
Okay.
My mother's was in Queens. Eventually, they both made their ways out east onto Long Island. My mother found herself and her family in Bayshore, New York.
Okay.
My dad found himself in North Babylon, and those 2 towns are actually very close to each other. My mom and dad actually met at a Pathmark when my dad was checking people out. He was working as a store clerk at Pathmark.
Pathmark, is that a...
Sorry, you don't know what Pathmark is. Stop and Shop, Pathmark, Sprouts for us
just like
out
a grocery
here.
store.
It's just a grocery store, a small chain. It's like when I came out here, we don't have Ralph's back home. We don't have Sprouts back home, right? It's like we barely have Whole Foods. Trader Joe's won't even come to Long Island. They are on Long Island, but they're not on the South Shore.
Got it.
So like if I wanted to go to Trader Joe's where I grew up, you have to drive 35 minutes north because they didn't want to put them there, right?
Yeah.
So they met at Pathmark, and then I think my parents got married in 91 or 92. I came along in 95.
Okay.
They bought a house in East Islip. I mean, God, it probably cost them like $90,000. They could turn around and sell that thing for almost $1 million now. And it's just like, it's crazy to think about how the real estate market has just completely boomed, on a side note. But it's, it was an incredible experience, man. Like very much so suburbia. Like at its finest, right? You wanted to go anywhere. Like if you were within the main, compounds of the neighborhood, you could walk there.
Yeah.
Or as we got older and, we were allowed to cross some of the main roads, so to speak, around like 12, 13 is when our parents started to let us kind of ride our bikes wherever we wanted to go around town. Which I think is very similar to here, to be honest, right? Like we live in suburbia here in San Diego on the beach. The only difference is, I think our city is just so much bigger back in New York, right? Like
spread out.
It takes a little bit longer to get there, right? I mean, San Diego is very spread out too,
right?
Like you can be 40 minutes north of where we are and you could still be considered in San Diego, which I think is nuts.
I know. Yeah.
For New York though, you really see that transition when you head like 20 minutes west. It starts to the houses start getting a little bit more closer together. You see a little bit more mass transit. The bus systems become a little bit more prevalent. The Long Island Railroad has some more tracks and some more stops along the way as you get closer to the city, right? It just gets a little bit more congested the more you head west, and it gets a little bit faster, to your point.
Yeah.
I love that. I grew up actually frequenting the city with my dad. I was a childhood actor, so I was featured in a handful of Chuck E. Cheese commercials.
Really?
Model Sporting Goods. Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, I was on a Bullfrog sunscreen commercial. Not an ad.
Okay.
No free ads for anybody. Not an ad. Wish it was.
Oh man, I gotta find one of those on YouTube.
And I'm somewhere in a bunch of textbooks too. I took a bunch of pictures when I was a kid, like holding up the diagrams of like the Saturn and the sun pieces, like
really
moving around. Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool.
That was like one of the many shoots that I did, right?
For sure.
And I just have such fond memories of that. And like my grandmother used to take us and my siblings and my cousins to watch the balloons get blown up the Wednesday before the Thanksgiving parade. So like we'd go into the city at like 6:00 at night on that Wednesday, the night before Thanksgiving. We'd go over to the park where they hold all of the balloons and watch them blow up. So like I loved going back and forth from the city. What was really cool for us was like, the only way you really got there though was by train. Like, you never drove from Long Island out to the city. But again, I think that's wildly different than where we live now, because you take a look at like the bus system here, and it's just so much smaller, right? And like the trains are so much smaller, and the coasters go so much slower even to what it is in New York. Yeah. And
public transit is a completely different situation.
Yeah, man. But for me, like why did I want to come out here? Like how did I land on San Diego? Like, dude, I moved out to the city. I was living there for 4 years and I was this close to going and legitimately buying a 1.5, 2-bedroom apartment. Man. 2 blocks from the water in Long Island City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was ready to, dive into like a 40-year fixed mortgage. Wow. And I was going to buy like a $1.2 million apartment.
So you were talking, so this is when you were living in Manhattan?
This was right before COVID, man. Like this, that quite literally the plandemic was the best thing that's ever happened to me. Yeah. Quite literally. For a multitude of reasons, right? Yeah. I was working, for the New York Mets, living in Long Island City. I had the 7 train right outside my door. So we would split time. In my last role, I was a manager of premium sales. So we spent half our time down at 4 World Trade Center, where we'd be able to meet with majority of our current clients and prospects that had their offices in the city, didn't care or have the time to come down to the ballpark to take a look at some suite leases, take a look at their seats, to have client entertainment or employee engagement, whatever the case may have been for what that client was looking to achieve. That's cool. And obviously on game days, we had to go to the ballpark, right? We had to wine and dine. We had to talk to these folks, make sure that they were engaged. I never had a winning team to sell, right? It was always, no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, how many total Mets games you think you've been to?
Oh God.
In your life?
Well, for those who don't know, there's 162 baseball games in a given season. 81 of those are split home and away. Right. So each team plays 81 home games, 81 away games. Before I started working there in 2017, I had my dad had season tickets. We had a 10-pack like my whole life growing up. So we'll call it like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Probably for roughly like 6 years, we'll call it 60 to 100 Mets games scattered throughout, because we'd go to a little bit more than just the 10-pack that we had every now and again. Like we'd want to go to the Subway Series, right? Who doesn't want to watch the Mets play the Yankees? And, after that, to be completely honest with you, Chris, like I would watch or be present at the very least for 65, 70 of those home games every single year. Yeah.
Yeah, you're up there, man. Like, as far as baseball fans out there, that's definitely up there.
It's around 250 or more, right? Wow. And then when I was working for the team, it got boring watching them at home, right? Like I knew all the things. It wasn't very And that's horrible to say, but like we as humans, we get desensitized to these things,
true,
right?
man.
Like,
Yeah.
I even had my dad, it got to the point where like when I first started out my entry level sales job, he was sitting like way down the right field line in like baseline box was the name of the section. They're not cheap seats by any means, you know, they're field level. You're close to the action, you're close to the players.
Yeah.
And he was so grateful.
Wow.
My son works for the New York Mets. Like, I don't have to pay a dime to come to this baseball game tonight. This is so cool.
And he was a lifelong fan anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, my dad was born and raised a diehard Mets fan. Wow. So that was something that was really easy for me to pick up. And it was really like a dream come true when I started working for him, right? So it's so funny though, again, desensitization. My pops, by the end of my career, when I had full reign to stick him and my mom in the padded seats behind home plate, he would literally have the audacity to reach out to me. If I hit him up at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon for a 7 o'clock start, I'd be like, hey, I got some seats for you and Ma. Like, do you have anything going on this afternoon, right? Like, can you make the drive from Long Island out to Queens?
Sure.
He'd let me know. And then, like, at first, he would drop everything that he was doing to come out. And then, of course, towards the end, he'd be like, are we sitting in the padded seats or what? I'm like, bro, what are we talking about here? You know, 2 years ago, you were just jacked up to be here at the cost of on the house. Now you're asking me whether or not the seat's behind home plate? Like, who are you, bro? Dude, it's crazy.
It's so funny, man. That's what happens. You take care of somebody and they get used to it, right?
It's insane. It's insane. And let that be a lesson, you know, for anybody in business, man. The more free things that you give out to people, the more they are going to expect free things from you, man. It's true. And that is something that I had to learn exceptionally the hard way. You know, while starting and scaling my own businesses, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. So let's move towards that. So you're running New York City. You gave us a good picture.
Sorry, I just want to put a pause on that real quick. So how did I get here?
Sure.
Right? How did I get back to San Diego? I was working. I mean, Chris, to your point, how many Mets games did I work?
Yeah.
I would get to the ballpark at like 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:30 the latest, depending on whether or not we had training that day. And it was a beautiful culture, I have to admit. Shout out Kenny Caperta. He's now, I believe, the senior vice president of ticketing and sales at Brooklyn Sports and Entertainment. Hands down, like one of the most impactful human beings that I've had the pleasure of working alongside, growing under, and learning from. So I just want to put that out there. I love Kenny. Kenny, if you ever actually get the opportunity to listen to this, I really appreciate you, my man, and everything that you always did for me. I left the Mets in March of 2020, like literally right before COVID. Right before COVID happened. My final interview with the pharmaceutical intelligence provider was on the day that New York City shut down. Really? So like
March 2020.
Yes. Yeah. And everybody, like I went to the office for my first 2 interviews and it was lively. There's a ton of people there. You know, they have the break room. They're showing me around. They're giving me this tour. I come in for my final interview. Bro, it's a ghost town. Like there's not a single soul in the building outside of the security guards and the 2 folks that were interviewing me. It was crazy. It like thinking back to it now, it's like, holy shit, that happened.
Yeah.
Like, that was bananas.
Yeah.
And I go in, I interview. I thankfully got the job at the time. And my first day of work, I had to wait. Like they had to send me a laptop. They had to send me a second screen.
Like no one knew what was going on.
They had to send me a desk chair. They had to send me a desk. Like,
damn. So wow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They were exceptional at the time, right?
At like taking care of around the situation.
Yeah. We would jump on these Zoom calls in the morning. Some guys are working from their couch, for crying out loud, right? Like they didn't have a desk because they didn't need one. They would commute to work every morning and take the subway and do what they needed to do, right? So once that happened, I was working, I think until like June or July. One of my friends reached out to me. She was going through some hardships at the time. She's like, dude, I'm getting real lonely out here. She lived in Los Angeles, actually, up in Sherman Oaks.
Okay.
And we played baseball together growing up. My dad coached her our whole lives. And she was like, dude, like I am dying out here. Like I need somebody to literally like just come and spend some time with me. Like I'd love to hang out. She was a teacher. She's teaching phys ed at the time. Like come to my place. work from 6 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we'll golf every afternoon. I was like, sold.
Works.
That was so easy for me, right?
Yeah.
So that was like my first taste of California.
Okay.
I spent 2 whole weeks in Los Angeles. I was only supposed to be there for 6 days. I extended my flight twice.
For sure.
And I fell in love. I was just like, this is what life could be like.
Yeah.
Every
Just
single day.
with like the Southern California, the activities available, the vibe.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Even when everything was shut down, you felt that?
Even when everything was shut down, dude.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Even when everything was shut down. I came out here. I didn't come to San Diego until later. I actually went back to Los Angeles to stay with her again for another 2 weeks back in like October or November that same year.
Yeah.
And then when I recognized what I was capable of doing on the road from a work perspective, I was like, I'm going to do this as often as I can. I eventually moved out officially from New York City in December of 2021. That was when my lease ended.
Okay.
So again, I spent like 14 months in transition. I went back to my folks. I saved a bunch of money.
Sure.
And I traveled the country.
Yeah.
Right? We couldn't go outside of the US at the time. So I made it my mission to cross as many bucket list golf trips off my list as I possibly could.
That's cool.
And, to take some of my friends with me along the way. When I came out to Torrey Pines, I was out here for 5 days. We played the South Course, the North Course, and Coronado.
Yeah.
And, man, I was like, this is just like LA, but I like the people a little bit better.
There you go.
I like the golf courses a little bit better. I love the community, and we had an Airbnb over on Felspar.
Wow.
So it was like, we were literally 3 blocks from the beach.
You got a taste of Pacific Beach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We ate Konos every morning for
nice.
breakfast. Yeah. It was sick. And when we were on our way back from that trip, my boy Mikey was like, how cool would it be for us to live out here?
Yeah.
Like, how sick would it be if we woke up every single day and we're living in paradise like this? And that stuck with me, man. Like, I kind of turned around to him at that time and I was like, well, what's stopping us from just doing that?
Yeah. Because you still had your job and you were still working remotely.
Yeah. So this is like...
Dude, I had a very similar story.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
It's like
2021.
Yeah. Like March of 2021. I apologize.
Okay.
My lease ended in 2020, December.
Got it.
So in 2021, that March, I came out to San Diego for the first time.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't wait to come back.
Yeah.
I came back and I visited 3 times after that.
And did it take those 3 visits you just mentioned to then decide you wanted to move here, or did you already knew you wanted to move here and you were visiting to like scope it out?
So it's a great question. Once I left the city and the city turned into what the city turned into during COVID, like I completely eliminated the thought of like, oh, I'm going to buy an apartment in New York City.
Yeah.
Now work from home is a thing, right? I'm transitioning. I'm like, I'm actually going to buy a house on Long Island. We're going to go back to like the original plan.
Okay.
We're going to buy a house on Long Island.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to raise a family here. I'm going to I'm going to put my roots down here.
Wow.
And at the time, I'm not saying that I regret it or not, but like this was when the housing market was still in the tank and houses were not, and neither were the rates as high as they are right now. But I'm so grateful that I never pulled that trigger.
Yeah.
Right. I was looking at a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, like a block away from the water in a town called Oakdale. That's where I was really looking to buy. And it was a steal. It was like $450,000 for this beautiful house. I'd be able to walk across the street and down the block if I wanted to have a boat. There was a dock there, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
But then I recognized, through that time that like I don't want to live in New York. I don't think. People are so different in so many other areas of the country, and I want to go expose myself to that. Every time that I traveled somewhere new, especially down south, right? Like they're wildly different folks and cultures. Yeah. Especially in the South, right?
Yeah.
So I also visited Georgia at one point, and I was torn, man. I'm like, do I want to go all the way out to California? Like I'm going to be super far away from my family, or, do I want to do like the Florida thing so that I can bounce back and forth on a 2-hour flight?
I see.
It's certainly not a 6-hour commitment, right? Like not that bad. And then I started to really wrap my arms around San Diego.
Yeah.
I had visited 4 or 5 times at that point. I was super stoked about the idea of it, but I needed to put rubber to the road, right? And that looked like me coming out here for 3 whole weeks to try and find an apartment.
Yeah. Wow.
And that was ultimately how I got to where I am right now.
I love it. Wow. Okay. So yeah, that brings it together nicely. So once you moved here, you obviously got your spot, and that. So what was your work situation at that point? Were you working for that same company that you had just started with right when COVID started, and then where was your head at? What was your feeling at that point about this job as you spent your first few weeks, months in San Diego?
It was great. You know, I'm doing the whole 6 to 2 thing.
Okay.
I got my entire afternoon to myself.
Yeah.
Life is going good.
Yep.
And then I sat down one day and I looked myself in the mirror after a tough conversation with some of my colleagues and some of our bosses when our new commission structure came out. You know, the new comp plan that everybody gets rolled out to 4 months into the new year.
Oh boy,
when,
I know what you mean.
You know, it's like the beginning of the second quarter, and I'm just now understanding how much money I can potentially make this year.
Yeah.
You know, that really rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
And we had...
Not in your favor, obviously.
Of course not, Chris. My target was raised, my yearly quota was raised 40%. I didn't receive a dime in compensation.
It's insane.
There was 0% increase in my salary. There was like a $5,000 increase in my OTE. But I was going from being targeted to bring in like $450K in new business to $750K.
Yeah. Jeez.
So I'm doing almost double the amount of work for the exact same price.
Right. Yep.
And it's like, I see this all the time.
Yep.
I see this all the time.
Yep.
This happens in every sales organization. It happened at the Mets, right? Like, again, Kenny, I love you to death. I know that you did everything you could for us, but shit, dude, it's like, I sold 3 times the amount of this last year. I made probably double what my OTE was.
Yeah.
Now you're going to give me this comp plan and slap me in the face with it?
Yeah, man.
Right? I went from making X last year, and if I'm a numbers guy and I'm doing the math correctly, I'm going to come out significantly more poor for this year.
Yeah.
Like, and that's when it clicked for me, dude.
Yeah.
I was so fed up at the lack of justification, no explanation to firmly back up why they were doing what they were doing. Right. And this was new to us.
Yeah.
We had never worked remotely before and we were killing it.
Really?
Killing it. Oh my God. We literally, our division was the only reason that the company was able to pay their employees for the first 6 months of COVID. Because we were in the pharma intelligence division.
Got it.
Right? So pharmaceuticals.
You guys probably blew up a little bit.
The vaccines. All of that. People were dying for our stuff at the time, right? To fully understand the effect of what this is going to have on the nation and, more importantly, drug prices, right? Like, that's what a lot of folks leveraged our software for. It's how many individuals get this type of cancer and how much money can we make off of that said population? Right? How can we blow this thing up so that our margins are as high as possible? That was one instance, right? Like, that's one of the many things that that we were able to provide some of our pharmaceutical customers. For sure. But when that happened, in conjunction with what we now know about COVID and how it truly came about, dude, I had a battle. I had such an internal battle with my soul. Right.
Wow. So you were like asking questions about, damn, this is the company I'm working for, and this is what we're learning about the whole situation.
Correct.
Yeah. Right? I see what you're saying.
Respectfully, I feel for all of the people who had the wool pulled over their eyes. Right. I was going through some of my memories on Instagram the other day, and like, I caught a post of me saying, like, it was like a selfie with me wearing a mask saying like that I was doing the right thing. Oh, wow. Right. And it's like, it's crazy. Like, I was under the spell at one point too, where like, I didn't know any better. None of us did. We were super scared, but then I started to ask some of the tough questions, right? Like, not a whole lot was starting to add up. Not a whole lot was making a ton of sense. Like, and they didn't like some of the tough questions that I was asking, right? And then there was a huge soul conflict there. It's like, do I want to show up in front of this laptop every day and be somebody that I am not at my core, in my soul? Or do I want to show up authentically? Right? Do I want to be somebody who is excited to wake up and do their work every single day?
Yeah.
And I started to struggle getting out of bed to help clinicians recruit healthy patients to be injected with potentially life-threatening chemicals, right? When people are in stage 4 of pancreatic cancer, when they're in stage 4 of breast cancer, liver cancer, testicular cancer, what have you, they're looking for a saving grace, right? So they really, it's not that they don't care. Of course they care, but they are so okay weighing the risk of like, there is a 50-50 chance I take this therapeutic and I croak over the next couple of months. There's also a chance that I beat this cancer. Right. And for me, I really struggled with that after seeing the outbreaks of myocarditis from the COVID vaccines. Like that was something that I saw firsthand through the data that we sold.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's so important to have conversations with people who you completely disagree with. Completely.
For sure.
Because those were the conversations where it opened my eyes the most to what people were truly concerned about. They were just scared, man. Like everybody wanted to quiet their fear. It's so much anxiety. Everybody just wanted it to be over. Right. And I think that's so, like, there's so many parallels to that and personal development, right? Like everybody wants the easy way out. They just want to take a pill. They just want to do this thing for 6 days, a 7-day challenge, a 30-day challenge, and then boom. I got the magic pill. I'm good. I fixed it. It's like, nah, bro, you got to show up every single day and you got to do the work. That's what this is all about. It's never going to be a get rich quick. You have to sit down, bury your head, and do the fucking work sometimes, you know? And that includes asking the tough questions that make you uncomfortable and disagreeing with people that you love, know, and trust. Right? And being able to have a conversation from that and potentially learn something from them. You know? Yeah, man.
I mean, I love that you just said that because it's a perfect transition to what I want to get into. I want to, it really brings it all together of everything you just shared with us about why you got out of the job you were doing. And then, you went and started your new thing.
Absolutely.
But let's focus on your business. So like, how did you come up with the idea of your discipline and mindset coaching business? And how did you start taking the steps to make it real?
It's a great question, Chris. When COVID started, I decided to be a little bit more vocal on social media. I was wrong at the time. I was echoing and sharing things that were very controversial at the time, right? A lot of it had to do with COVID. And I saw just how powerful my voice was, man. Right? And how important it was to encourage others through a time of deep uncertainty and stillness. And like, I'll never forget walking outside my apartment in New York City when I had to go like grocery shopping. And there wasn't a single human. Yeah, it was nuts, man.
Crazy.
So I started, when I was in high school, it's so funny. My tagline, if you follow me on Instagram, is make it a great day or not.
That's
the
right.
choice is yours. Right? That actually stems from my high school. My principal used to say it at the end of the morning announcements every single day. So that has been etched in my brain after attending East Islip High School for 4 years and hearing at the end of the morning announcements, make it a great day or not, the choice is yours. I started to do that in college where I'd jump on Snapchat, and I went to school upstate in New York where it snowed a ton. It was like -5 degrees outside, bare minimum 6 inches on the ground of snow at all times. And, I'd be transitioning, like running up to the library in like the middle of a humongous snowstorm. And I would jump on my camera and be like, it's snowing out here. It's a blizzard. It's freezing cold. but I'm going to the library.
Yep.
I'm going. I'm studying.
Yep.
I'm getting it done.
Yep.
I'm going to be the best physical education teacher on the planet. Here we go, baby.
Yep.
And I started to end those Snapchats that I would put up with, make it a great day or not, choice is yours. Went quiet for a couple of years, and then for some reason, I just felt called during COVID to start doing that again, to start sharing a little bit about my day and the experiences that I had and the effect that it could have on others if I just opened my mouth and said, hey, this is something that I experienced today. I just want to share it with you.
Yeah.
This really good thing happened as a result of X, Y, Z, what have you.
Yeah.
And sharing it with others has just enabled them to take a good look at their own lives and say,
Yeah.
maybe I should be doing a little bit more of that. Maybe I should be doing a little bit less of that, right? Like, and then I was getting tremendous feedback throughout COVID, right? Like, your message is inspiring, but it's still a little too political, right? It's a little bit too much about COVID.
Yeah.
And then transparently, again, not to continue diving down these deep rabbit holes, can't unsee what I saw in November of 2020. And that was when it clicked for me that we are truly living in the Matrix. And, you know, sadly, there will be people who will always live there. They will be slaves to the mainstream media. They will listen to everything that they see and hear, and they won't ask deep diving questions. No, go ahead.
Yeah, no. So you realize how impactful your voice was, regardless of the response you got, whether it was positive, negative.
Correct.
And then you said, hey, I can do something with this.
But I have to pivot. I had to pivot
at
the time. Like, my messaging was there, it was strong.
Yeah.
But again, it was for all the wrong reasons.
Got it.
Right? Like, I'm over here trying to educate people about current events. That's not my calling.
Yeah.
Right? That's not what I was put on this earth to do.
Yep.
And those who have followed me, you know, for my entire life can attest to the fact that my feed has changed dramatically over the last couple of years.
Interesting.
And I've really taken a focus into sharing with others how impactful making small changes in my life has been, right? And how I weighed 195 pounds when I worked for the Mets in my third year there. It was the heaviest I had ever been in my entire life.
Wow.
Looked myself in the mirror one day and I said, wow, Chrissy, you look like a bag of shit, bro. Like, I had this big beer belly, like a gut, man.
Really?
I swear to God. Yeah. You'd see my face. I had these big puffy cheeks.
Jeez. It's hard to imagine right now.
That's crazy, dude. It's crazy. You know, I was ordering a Starbucks drink every single morning that was riddled with sugar. I was eating ballpark food twice a day, every day for, you know, sometimes we had 20-game homestands.
Yeah.
Where I wasn't going home or I wasn't meal prepping. I had $25 per game to go spend at Citi Field. Yeah. This is some of the best food in baseball. You know, I'm eating Shake Shack. Right. I'm eating fried chicken sandwiches, you know, sausage and peppers, the whole nine. And once I started working for the software company, I started my fitness journey again. I had recently just got back into yoga. I was losing a ton of weight. I started doing intermittent fasting. And it was really at that point where I was like, I think there's an opportunity for me here to do something on my own. Yeah. Right? Like, coaching was becoming very prevalent at the time. I had worked with a couple of coaches myself, and I saw the impact that they were able to have on me. Yeah. Right? From a fitness perspective, from a life coaching perspective, from a golf coaching perspective. Like, all of these humans who I'm so blessed to have crossed paths with that had such tremendous impacts on my life. Yeah. And I just simply asked myself, like, why not me? Why can't I go do something similar for something that means a whole lot to me and my heart?
Did you ever work with these people, like, directly in a professional manner, or were these just people you kind of found online, or people you kind of came across and had some just brief, more transactional interaction with?
Yeah, from a coaching standpoint. Yeah. So I hired 2 PGA professionals when I worked back home. Okay. When I lived back home, I should say. One of them was Jim Hazen. He works out at 247 Golf Academy in Holbrook. And the other one was Rich Hoffer. Okay. Owns South Shore Golf as well over in Oakdale, New York. That was where I was going to buy the house, actually. I saw the tremendous impact that they were able to have on me from a golf perspective. With regards to fitness training, I had worked with Anthony Tuminello when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And that exposed me to the potential of being an entrepreneur, working for yourself, and the impact that that can have. But then once I moved back home in December of 2020, I had already been doing yoga for about a year at that point. Like I started yoga right before COVID happened. And then once COVID happened, I was just rolling out my yoga mat during like lunch.
Nice.
And I had worked with Stormy Barbara. She's actually from my hometown. Stormy is a mindset coach as well.
Okay.
And she was holding, not daily, but it was like 4 or 5 days a week. She had complimentary yoga classes.
Oh,
right?
wow.
She would put them on Facebook. She'd give you all the recordings, the whole nine. And then after like 2 months of doing that, she was like, all right, cool. I got all these recordings. I'm going to upload them onto Kajabi. And then I'm going to repurpose and package these as a membership.
Nice.
And then she would add classes to her repertoire as she went on, right? That was very inspiring for me too, right? Seeing an entrepreneur firsthand doing exactly what I had the potential to do in a different capacity.
Yeah.
Right? Very inspiring. So Stormy was my yoga teacher for a long time. And then Nikki Candelora is an individual that I went to college with. Nikki is a spiritual coach. And we had connected again after college a few times. We would frequently speak, but I mean, it was like 3-4 times a year, right? And when I was starting to go through some of these awakenings, and when I still lived in New York City, she saw that I was going through some of these awakenings, and she was feeling very similarly about some of the topics that I was posting about that were rather controversial, right?
Yeah.
So she was like, dude, we got to meet up. We got to sit down. We got to chat.
Yeah.
Right. And at the time, this is like, again, 2020, probably the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
I met her down in Greenport, and she shared with me how she was leaving her 9-to-5 to go and pursue her coaching business and to go and work for herself.
Yeah.
And again, just so inspiring.
Yeah.
I asked her candidly, would you be open to helping me and working with me on my mindset, on my spiritual journey through my awakening?
Yeah.
And she's one of the many reasons why I was able to really solidify my thoughts on San Diego. Right. And
how did she do that? Did she how did she help you really clarify and identify what your priorities were with what environment you wanted, what you wanted in your life, access to, whatever it was?
yeah, it's like, what's your why, dude?
Yeah.
What makes you happy? Why are you living for others? And it's so funny how, people who we love, know, and trust are capable of waving red flags in our lives that we will never see without their assistance, without their perspective, without their vision and their 2 cents on what it is that we're currently going after in our endeavors, in our life, etc. And she was just so encouraging and letting me know and reminding me each and every day that we spoke how powerful I really was, right? And how anything that I wanted in this world was out there for me if I chose to show up and walk in alignment.
Yeah.
So we got very clear on what mattered most to Chris. And we did a lot of inner child healing as well. Right?
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I've done a program similar. It was a dream builder program with another buddy of mine who's a life coach. Also, he's from New Jersey. I'll introduce you guys, but his name's Frankie, and I worked with him in early 2022, I think, and it helped me build my vision of certain things, bring them to life, and one of them was this podcast. So, yeah, that's I know what you mean. It's such a powerful experience, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, it's just like, it's incredible what happens when you you pull back the layers, right?
Yeah.
You clean off those lenses on the sunglasses that you've been wearing for 28 years. You have no idea what else is out there because you've never experienced it. Right?
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing that Nikki did for me was challenge my current schools of thought. Right? I had this conversation with somebody the other day. I posted a picture of me and a gentleman who is a fitness coach. He goes to our gym now. And this guy goes to me, one of my friends from back home, he hits me up and he goes, is that guy on steroids, ? And little does he know, if you dive into the guy's profile that I posted the picture with, like he's very adamant about the fact that he takes supplements and he takes testosterone and D-bol and tren and all that stuff, right? Yeah. Which it's fine. Like, do your thing, right? Yeah, like it's neither here nor there. He goes, is that guy on steroids? And I said, why does it matter? Right? Like, and that's the transition. Yeah. That's the difference.
Interesting.
That some of us need to make, right? It's like, well, why are you concerned about him?
Yeah.
What does anything that this man is doing have to do with you, brother?
Yeah.
And that was what I think she helped me with the most, right? It's like releasing that judgment of others and looking yourself in the mirror and saying, did I show up today?
Gosh.
Did I check all of my boxes today? We can't change others. We should not even be concerned with what others are doing, man. We're diverting our attention away from ourselves and our power, right? Like,
such a good point, man.
And that, I think, like, credit to Nikki. If you don't follow her already, her Instagram handle is @oath2growth. Just a tremendous human being that I owe a lot of the inner child healing that I had gone through too.
Yeah.
And also just, again, man, like peeling back the layers of the matrix and truly being able to open my eyes to the beauty that is this life that we live and how self-sabotaging behaviors can truly affect our daily life. And I was just the only person that was standing in my own way. She helped me understand that. She helped me see that.
I do want to talk about your business though.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, because this is what I really wanted to focus on is what you've built, because I think it's so cool. From the content you're putting out is great. Could you just describe what your coaching business is?
Absolutely. I help others go from where they are currently, ultimately to where they want to be in various aspects of life, whether that's personal development, health and fitness, biohacking, diet, golf, what have you. I am here to help you become the best version of yourself by simply breaking it down into tangible, bite-sized pieces.
Nice.
Majority of the time, people put such a huge emphasis on doing these grandiose, humongo gestures, right? New Year's resolution. I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week. I'm going to do cardio in the morning for 20 minutes, and then I'm going to lift for 60 minutes at night. Come January 18th, you've gone to the gym 3 times and you've done cardio once, right? Why is that? It's because you can't just go from not going to the gym at all to overhauling into a 5-day stretch. Like it's not impossible. There are people out there who can do it. I'm one of them, candidly, but majority of human beings struggle to do that. So how can we make it a little bit easier, right?
Yeah.
Majority of the concepts that I teach and that I coach in the individuals that I work with stem from James Clear's Atomic Habits.
Love it.
And from Darren Hardy's The Compound Effect. Those 2 books, in conjunction, of course, with things like The Mountain Is You, Psycho-Cybernetics, Power versus Force, like all these books and these podcasts that have truly attributed to the person that I have become today, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm no expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I am an excellent student who now considers himself an expert in regurgitating what I have learned from all of the wonderful mentors and individuals in my life who have made it a point to leave a lasting impact on me, including but not limited to the authors of these books, man, and the podcast that we listen to, right? So one of the biggest things that I do is I break small habits down for people, right? Rather than going into the gym 5 days a week, how can we just get you to show up once?
Yeah.
So that next week you're like, oh my God, I cannot wait for Wednesday night to get here. I know that Wednesday night's going to be the night that I go to the gym.
Yeah.
All right, you feeling that way? Let's add on a second.
Yeah.
But let's make it sustainable. This is a lifestyle. This isn't, again, I'm huge on you got to get rid of the get rich quick mentality.
Yep.
This is something that we need to invest ourselves in for a lifetime.
Yeah, so a big focus of yours is breaking these things to bite-sized pieces and putting these together one at a time.
Right.
The habits, building these better habits, right?
And what do we do in doing that? We forget about goal setting.
Yeah.
We forget about goals are super important.
Yeah.
They are. And I think
you mean that in a good way.
I do.
Yeah.
I think that goals are super important. Writing them down have tremendous impacts on your ability to accomplish them.
I get your point though.
But there are times where we just kind of have to put them in the back seat for a little while, and we got to focus on the systems that are going to be able to get us there, right? Like goals are about the results that you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results.
Yeah.
And those are the most important pieces. If you don't have a well-oiled system, the machine is never going to get you to your goal.
Right.
Right. And it's like, how can we optimize your systems to set you up for the greatest levels of success?
Yeah.
Right. What does that look like? It's building identity-based habits, right? What is your why?
Yep.
When you get to the root of it, and we go through a lot of the inner child work that I do with my clients now, more so in the beginning of our ventures, to get super duper clear on what matters most to you, right? I have people tell me all the time, I want to shoot a lower score on the golf course. Okay, that's great. Why?
That's great. Great question.
Well, I would just like to hit my driver a little bit further. Okay, well, why do you want to hit your driver a little bit further? Because I want to outdrive my boy that I play with every Saturday morning. Okay, now we're going somewhere with this, right? So what I'm hearing you say is you want to play better golf because you'd like to win a little bit more on Saturday mornings.
Yeah.
What does life look like for you right now? Oh man, I'm getting my ass kicked by these guys. They go out and they get lessons all the time.
Yeah.
I know that I have the capacity to beat them, but I'm just not doing it, right? I'm not showing up and I'm not doing the work. I help bridge that gap.
Yeah.
What work needs to be done? How can we break this into bite-sized chunks, right? How can you start to identify as somebody who practices once a week and also plays golf every Saturday morning with their boys, right? You'll have people tell you often, like, I'd really like to lose 20 pounds. It's like, well, that's a very specific number. How'd you get there?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I just don't like seeing 185 on the scale, and I think I'd like to see 165. Forget about the number. Forget about the number.
Yeah.
How do you feel? What are you doing each day that contributes to you being a healthier human being?
Yep.
Right? It's not about weighing 165 pounds. It's about embodying the fact that I am somebody who wants to be healthy.
I like that.
And that's what we need to get to the root of.
It's elevating the level of the identity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, then from there, we break it down.
Yeah.
Right? Into various aspects and habits in your life that are either holding you back or are absent from helping you get to where you need to go.
Yeah.
So we help break down some of the bad habits in attempt to remove them.
Okay.
Right? In conjunction with creating some of the good habits.
Yep. I love it. Yeah, a lot of what you're saying lines up with the book that I'm actually reading, Ed Mylett's book, The Power of One More. Have you read this?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
But
it's
as
incredible.
you know, I love Ed Mylett.
Yeah. It's awesome stuff.
He's just the best, man.
Yeah. It's good. And Atomic Habits is on my list too, so that's coming.
It's just one more day.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I think he has such a powerful story.
It is, yeah.
Because my dad was an alcoholic, still is.
Yeah.
My dad is a fully functioning alcoholic. I love him to death.
Oh. And by the way, you're sober.
Yep.
And how long have you been fully sober?
October 29th, 2021.
Nice job, man. Incredible.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. If I take a look, I think I'm up to 525 days today.
That's crazy, man. And we're in April 2023.
Yeah, man. So we are just about 6 months away from a full 2 years. It's been over 600 days since I've used cocaine, and I stopped taking Adderall back in April.
Dude, good for you, man. Those are... I can't believe it took us this long to get to that, because I feel like everything you just said is such a huge part of your journey to starting this coaching business, where you're so focused on helping people build these habits to better themselves, live a better life, work towards these goals, not just by focusing on the goal itself, but by just basically changing who you are, how you operate.
Exactly.
For the better.
Right. And, it's funny, man. I see people all of the time when I deny a drink at a social gathering, or, it happens a lot when I go back home, right? Where there's always a couple of people who truly do look to me and they're like, man, I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
And I feel for them, because I want them to know more than anything, they are capable.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I am no superhero. I'm not, man. I don't have some superpower that, allowed me to wake up one day and say, I'm done drinking alcohol. Like, I had to give it a couple of shots. I had to fall on my face. I had to mentally share with myself, all right, you know what? I think today's going to be the day that I stop. Go out to happy hour, have 2 IPAs. Let's try it again tomorrow. Yeah. Right? I think that's something that Ed talks about.
Yes.
So well, right? Like, how can I just make it one more day, one more day, one more day, one more day? And, for me, I had a lot of loved ones around me who, if I was drinking, they just didn't want to be around me, right? And like, I wasn't a nasty drunk or anything like that, but man, I didn't like who I became.
You weren't who
either.
you were.
Yeah, exactly.
You weren't who you are. Yeah.
Just didn't really enjoy the person that I became. And, you know, I'd be embarrassed of some of the things that I would say when I would be under the influence. And, you know, I was coming back from a Ranger game with one of my best friends at the time. And, you know, this drunk guy was hammered, you know, was annoying us when we were on the train ride home. And I said something to him, and my buddy looked at me and he was like, dude, we gotta reel this in, you know, like, you just can't be saying shit like that to people. Like, I don't care who you are, you know? And, I looked myself in the mirror and asked, where is this getting me?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I identify as somebody who wants to be a happier, healthier human being every single day, who shows up and does the work, who does the hard things. Am I casting votes in favor or against that higher self that I have in my head when I participate in certain activities? Right? And like, that's the beginning of my program. Right? We fill out a scorecard where we run through, and again, it takes two here, right? You got to be super transparent and super honest with me about the things that you do each day, including but not limited to, I wake up every day and I scroll on social media for 30 minutes. Like, man, I heard something Jay Shetty said the other day, and it's like, would you wake up and invite 70,000 people into your bed with you at 6 o'clock in the morning?
That's a good one right there, man.
I know I wouldn't, right?
That's an unreal way to look at it.
Yeah.
And I think that's super powerful for people who struggle with this. I think that's an extremely common thing that we all struggle with pulling open Instagram when you wake up in the morning, whatever it is, looking at social media.
So let's run with this. Okay. Let's use you as an example here.
Let's do it.
Wake up every day. What do you do?
Well, check the phone.
Why?
Well, see what I might be missing out on.
Right.
Yeah.
Can appreciate that. There's a huge bit of FOMO there, right?
Yeah.
We also know that our cell phones elicit a light that is brighter than 10,000 suns. Fair? If you wanted to break the habit of waking up every day and scrolling on your phone, you got to get super clear on why you want to do that, right? Fear of missing out probably won't be enough for you to stop picking up the phone every single morning, right? When you listen to certain podcasts and you listen to certain influencers who have credibility, like Dr. Andrew Huberman out of Stanford,
He's a man.
Who you and I are humongous fans of, man, I struggle to unhear what he says about the detrimental effects that viewing our cell phone within 60 minutes of opening our pretty little eyeballs each morning has on our dopamine and our circadian heart rhythm, right? Those are two things that are very important to me. I love going to bed and waking up at the exact same time. Why? Because I know that that's going to prime my body for the utmost success the following day. So we would take a look at, for you, right? You don't want to look at your phone in the morning. So the 4 laws of behavior change are: number 1, make it obvious. Number 2, make it attractive. Number 3, make it easy. And number 4, make it satisfying.
And these are from the Atomic Habits book.
They do stem from Atomic Habits, right? On the reverse, there are the inversions of those 4 laws, right? Make it inevitable, make it unattractive, make it difficult, and make it unsatisfying.
To delete certain habits.
Correct. So the first inversion is make it invisible. How can we reduce your exposure and remove the cues of your bad habits from your environment? I have an idea about what I can implement with you. Share with me what you think, removing the cues of your bad habit of looking at your phone from your environment. What would that look like? How could you reduce exposure?
You need to hear it from them first.
Well, how could you do that? How could you reduce your exposure to your cell phone in the morning? What is a simple thing? What is something that you can do?
I mean, one thing I've heard, a strategy has been some people put their phones far away from their bed.
I sleep with my cell phone on my kitchen table. Every single night. Why do I do that? Because my alarm goes off on my cell phone that's about 25 yards away from my bed. I've gotten really smart with this too, because the Whoop band has the haptic alarm.
Yeah.
So when this thing goes off, I know I now have 60 seconds, because I set this up on my phone.
Yep.
I now have 60 seconds to get my feet on the floor.
Yep.
And make my way towards the kitchen table.
Nice.
Because 60 seconds from when this thing goes off,
Yeah.
you're going to hear the iPhone alarm. We all know what that sounds like. And that'll definitely pop you out of bed.
Yeah.
Majority of folks do that too, but their phone is right next to them.
Yeah.
So naturally they wake up, they pull the covers off, their alarm goes off, and then they're like this.
Yeah. Yep. It's
Right?
pretty accurate, man. And the thing is, this is such a good example because this is such a real one, such a common one. You know, it's not like a drastic thing like, oh, somebody drinks and it causes problems in their life and then they're trying to quit altogether. Like, that's kind of a big deal, right?
It's a huge deal.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
And I also think that's too grandiose. Again, like we got to work,
Exactly.
we got to break that down into smaller habits.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. And I mean, just a tiny little habit that you can do a little bit better at every day is by not staying in bed looking at your phone. You get up when you're supposed to, you know? Yeah.
And, you know, the second inversion of the law is make it unattractive versus making it attractive, right?
Yeah.
So how can we reframe your mindset to highlight the benefits of avoiding these bad habits, right? That's when you need to dig deep and learn and research, well, what impact is looking at my phone for 25 minutes before I wake up and go to the bathroom every morning to brush my teeth, put my contacts in, etc., having on me in my daily life?
Yeah.
For me, I think reframing my mindset was so simple after hearing Huberman talk about it.
Yeah.
Like that podcast for the circadian heart rhythm was the reason why I stopped sleeping next to my phone. Quite literally. Right?
Pretty cool.
And for some people, though, that's not enough. So you need to make it difficult. You need to increase the friction between the number of steps it takes you to get to your bad habits.
Yeah.
Right? So that looks a little bit more like I put my journal right next to my phone.
Nice.
So once I hit that alarm,
You're journaling.
I'm now looking at two things.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a cell phone and a journal and a pen.
Yep.
Make it a great day or not, choice is mine.
Yeah, dude. So that's a good transition, and thanks for sharing that example. It's a good one, and I mean we could go on and on about examples like that, but I have two things I really want to ask about. One is going to be, what does your day look like? How do you organize your day? I want to pull some tactics from you because you're filled with good ones, and you just started that journey by how you wake up, right? Your journal's next to your phone. It's in the other room. The other question I'm going to ask you is, what does an interaction look like with you, someone who's a new customer or someone who's interested in working with you?
Absolutely.
Right. So those are the two things I want to focus on here. But can you maybe let's start with, what does a day look like for you? How do you organize your day?
Great question,
as a life coach working for yourself?
So first and foremost, all of my one-on-one coaching calls take precedent. So like those are one color on my calendar and those are non-negotiables for me, right? I am here to support my customers first and foremost, the ones who are working with me in a one-on-one capacity. So those are non-negotiable. And then from there, right now, something that is very important to me is scaling the golf academy that I run up in Oceanside over at Arrowwood Golf Course. So I am now the head coach of Game Changer Golf Academy. I work alongside PGA professional Blake Jurgis, who operates out of Coto de Caza up in Orange County. And our goal right now is to enroll as many juniors and adults into the program as possible. It's more of a group coaching atmosphere where 3 or 4 juniors, 3 or 4 adults will get together for various practice times and on-course assessments. Those come second, right? So it's one-on-one coaching calls, one-on-one assessments from a golf perspective, and then golf practice. Once those are on my calendar, now I can reverse engineer all of the other things that matter most to me and my daily practices, right? What does that look like? On a day where I have to be at the academy, like on Saturdays and Sunday mornings, I will wake up, I will hit my alarm, I will journal. Biggest life hack that I've implemented over the last 2 years is I stopped taking my phone with me to the bathroom. Okay. How can I bundle some of these things together to make sure that I'm just maximizing every action that I take each day, right? I'm casting votes in favor of the person that I aspire to be. if you were looking at yourself through your highest self's security camera each morning,
Yep.
would they be happy with you scrolling for 25 minutes before you started your day?
Right.
Probably not. Would they be happier and more proud of you leaving your phone in the kitchen and taking a book with you to the bathroom?
No, I hear you, man.
Right?
Yeah.
So that,
But, yeah.
and then, brush my teeth, pop my contacts in, first thing, boom, cold plunge.
There you go.
Every day.
Okay, so this is what we want. Okay, so you do your little stuff in the morning like everyone does.
Hydrate as
Leave your
well.
phone. Yep.
First
Drink water.
thing, 12 to 20
cold plunge.
ounces.
You're big on cold plunges.
Huge.
Okay, so gosh, I mean, I just did an episode recently with Karen, of course, who you know, right? And we talked a lot about cold plunging and the benefits there. So we don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but it's an amazing thing. You're a huge fan of it. Maybe just quickly describe how do you describe a cold plunge in the morning impacts the rest of your day?
For me, Chris, once you are able to willingly huck yourself into a 37-degree tub of water, everything else that happens to you throughout the rest of the day is so easy.
Easy. Yep.
It's so easy, dude.
Yep. That's how
Right? Like,
that's how Joe Rogan describes it too.
tough conversations at work, tough conversations with family, tough conversations with friends, they just become easier. Right?
Yeah.
For me, genuinely, it has become a meditative practice. Not only do I feel physical benefits from it and my mind races when I get out of there, your dopamine increases by something north of 300%.
Yep.
Right? For me, it's the ability to show up and cast votes in favor of a human being who wakes up every day and does something that is challenging.
I love it.
That others look at you like you're an absolute lunatic. They look at you like that because they're probably just incapable of showing up and doing it themselves, right? You're somebody who cold plunges, maybe not as often as I do, but nonetheless, like, you can speak to it and the difficulty some days that it takes to muster up the courage to get in, man.
Yep.
Just to get in there. And
it's important to do it not just when you feel good enough to do it, but when you don't.
And to be completely transparent with you, Chris, like, I don't think that addiction is a disease. I don't. Because I think, as somebody who has beaten a few addictions, it's just a part of your personality, right? Like, you really just love chasing dopamine. You may not, and a lot of people will disagree with me on this, and that's fine. They're more than happy to disagree with me. At the end of the day, replacing bad habits can quite literally be just substituting a bad one for a good one, right? So if you wake up every day and you want to light a joint, or you wake up every day and you want to light a cigarette, like, how about you just wake up every day and throw yourself in the tub? Like, you're just replacing it. Right? You're removing a bad habit and you're implementing a better one. Like, that is something that's very simple to just say that you can do, but in certain instances, that was what I did. Right?
That's great, man.
It's so simple.
Yeah, man, that's great stuff. And man, it's such good tactics there. But I want to hear, and for anyone who's listening who might be interested in meeting you, working with you, what can they expect on an initial interaction or coaching call with you, when they reach out and get that set up?
Absolutely. For me, Chris, I want to get to the root cause, right? I want to find out what your why is. Why did you show up here today? What are some of the things that you're struggling with? How do you think I can help you? Right? There are folks that have come on to a discovery call with me that I've had to turn away, right? Because they weren't ready to take the leaps that are necessary to make the changes that they claim they would like to see. So what can you expect? You can expect a transparent and honest conversation about me and my abilities to take you from wherever it is that you are to where you need to be. How I can bridge that gap, what resources I'll provide you along the way, and ultimately game plan how we're going to get there. I'll outline that for you, right?
You do it live on the call, or do you take in all the information they give you and then you work on it on your own and then get back to them? How does it work?
No, it's all done in live time.
Got it.
Right. So we jump on a call, learn a little bit more about your past history, some of the things that you're struggling with. We also touch on what's working well, right? We want to continue to capitalize on the things that are going well in your life. Well, I wake up every day and I go for a 10-minute sunshine walk. Like, we want to keep that, right? We want to wake up every day and we want to go outside and see the sun. That's not a bad thing. But maybe it's when you come back home from your sunshine walk and you're on your phone for 35, 45 minutes before work. Yeah. When really you could have been meal prepping a nice meal for breakfast. Like, those are the things that I'll potentially throw in there to be like, hey, what do you think about this?
You're focusing on the small things.
That's it, man. You know, it's not rocket science, but everybody would like it to be. Yeah. They want it to be rocket science, but it's sometimes just as simple as showing up and doing the boring shit. Like not drinking caffeine.
Consistently too.
You know, for 90 minutes when you open your eyes, making sure that you get 10, 15 minutes of sunshine upon waking up. Little things like this, going to bed at the same time every night, waking up at the same time every day, and just casting more votes in favor of that human that you aspire to be versus the one that you wouldn't. Yeah. Right. And I think that the biggest piece for me that is impactful on that call is whether or not the prospects that I'm working with are capable of being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yeah. That is the telltale sign as to whether or not somebody will be ready to make the leap, to really make changes in their life or not. And quite frankly, I like to call people out on their bullshit, right? So if you are somebody who is ready, who is willing to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, who's willing to be coachable, who's willing to lean into doing the uncomfortable shit that they've never done before, to achieve results that they have yet to achieve, then you're somebody that I'd love to have a conversation with. If you're looking to improve your golf game and you live up in Oceanside, California, anywhere near there, you know, Orange County, North SD, etc. It's another way that I can help folks. We would be happy to help take you out for an on-course game assessment, play 9 holes with you. And same thing, right? In golf, it's almost the same as life coaching, but I need a little bit more time to see how you golf, right?
For sure.
So 9 holes takes about 2 hours. And then at the end of those 2 hours, based on the conversations that we had and what I was able to uncover, we sit down at the end and we have a conversation about what a game plan could look like to help you improve on X, Y, and Z areas that you'd like to improve on. Right? And how
golf
we can
specifically.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's cool, my golf specific. And again, with regards to life coaching, the best way to go ahead and book that call is to follow me at Chris Sortino on Instagram. It's at Chris_SORTINO. Click the link in my bio. And feel free to schedule a complimentary one-on-one coaching call to see if whether or not we'd be a good fit.
Love it, man. I was going to end it with asking how can people find you, and there you go. And we'll link that when we release the episode as well. But man, this has been great, man. Good tactics. Appreciate you doing this with me. Anything you want to leave the audience with before we end it?
Yeah. You know, if you're somebody who's struggling with addiction, alcohol, nicotine, opioids, Adderall, SSRIs, Xanax, whatever the case may be, I just want you to know that I'm here for you. And you're not alone. I've been in your shoes before, and I'd love to have a conversation. You know, if you think that you're ready to create a better life for yourself, to build better habits while breaking bad ones, I'm your guy. And I promise to help you every step along the way. But you got to be able to show up and meet me halfway. And I want to leave people with that. Make it a great day or not. The choice is theirs, baby.
Love it. Choice is yours, baby. You heard him. Come on, you heard the man.
Come on now.
Man, Chris, dude, appreciate you, dude. Love the content you're putting out there. I can attest that the stuff he's been doing is great. So check out his Instagram and his online presence. And again, dude, thanks for being here. I'm stoked that we're friends and excited to continue to get to know you and watch you become more successful.
Thank you, my brother. I love you. I'm so grateful for you.
Love you too, man. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Slow down, man. I just don't know how.
Thank you for joining our conversation today on the Nichols and Dimes Show. Please check out and follow my podcast Instagram at Nichols and Dimes Show. I'd love to have you subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube. You can also find it on my website. I welcome and encourage any feedback you can share in the reviews so I can continue to improve and develop the show. Thanks again, and see you next time.